I thought it was just the end of semester crunch and the missed deadlines at work. I was wiped out all the time, but who wouldn't be? Then Lily, my 6-year-old, started saying her legs hurt. Softly at first, just a bedtime whisper. I tried ointments, massages, warm tea. They helped for a few hours, then the pain came back worse. A few days later, she looked up at me with those huge eyes and asked, "Mom, can we skip the park today? My legs hurt." Saturday at the park was our sacred ritual. Right then, my heart really clenched. I booked a pediatrician. From there, we went to an orthopedist. He examined Lily with almost solemn care. When he paused for too long, the air felt thin. "We'll need an X-ray and some tests," he said without really looking up. I waited for the results glued to my phone. When the clinic called asking us to come in as soon as possible, my hands shook so hard I almost dropped it. In the office, one look at the doctor's face told me everything. "Mrs. Harper, the image shows a growth in the femur. Lily needs an oncologist right away. Tumor, surgery, oncology." The words ricocheted in my head like they were in all caps. I walked out hugging my little girl, the referral crumpled in my hand, legs like jelly. At the cancer center, time barely moved. Endless lines, the strong antiseptic smell, faces carrying the same fear I was trying to hide. And there, in that cold hallway where so many lives change course, I realized our story was just beginning, and I'd do anything to write the next chapter beside my daughter. The doctor called me back and didn't need many words. The tumor was rare, it needed urgent, expensive surgery, and every day we waited cut Lily's chances. I left with that sentence pounding in my head and one question I couldn't shake. How do I find that much money so fast? I called James in the parking lot. My voice trembled, but I tried to sound steady. He listened, took a deep breath, and said, "We'll figure it out." I hung up and stared into the rearview mirror. The confidence I looked for in my own eyes wasn't there. At home, I listed every option. I called friends one by one. Some said, "Count on me," others apologized. Debts, kids, emergencies. At work, I asked for a meeting, laid everything out for my boss. He was sympathetic and suggested a fundraiser at the office. I left with a spark of hope and a knot in my chest. We made drastic cuts. No restaurants, movies, or morning coffees. Every coin went into an envelope labeled Lily. At night, once she was asleep, I dove into childhood cancer forums, jotting down surgeons, comparing clinics, reading testimonies. Every click was a mix of fear and determination. James picked up extra shifts. He got home after midnight, exhausted, but still asked how much we'd saved. I'd show him the envelope, he'd smile, and that smile, tired as it was, kept me grounded. We lived between two poles, the anxiety that stole my sleep and the hope that pushed me forward. While we counted coins and pulled all-nighters researching, I kept telling myself it's not over. As long as we fight, Lily has a chance. That simple, stubborn line put me back in the fight every morning. When the first week turned into the 5th, I didn't know what day it was anymore. I only remembered the punch clock's beep, the stack of empty plates at the restaurant, and the wrinkled envelope we hid in the sock drawer. Every coin that fell in there was one step closer between Lily and the OR. James did the same, moving jobs, painting, anything that came up. At night, we shared exhausted looks in the kitchen, splitting a stale loaf of bread and the same fear, will we make it in time? I always answered the same, more to myself than to him. Yes, we will. Meanwhile, the phone rang. It was Margaret, his mom, asking, advising, promising, whatever you need. Nothing ever came but advice. I shut my heart to it. Energy was too precious. The days shrank again when the envelope started to feel heavy. I counted the money 10 times a night as if it could evaporate. On the 11th count, I finally hit the amount the doctor had scribbled on a greasy slip of paper. My hands shook. I called the clinic. "All set. We'll admit Lily in 7 days," the voice said. 7 days. I hung up and cried against her bedroom door. Lily slept, too small to understand, too big to curl up in my lap like before. I whispered, "It's going to be okay." James came home near midnight, paint spattered. I told him the news. He smiled, not like someone who wins, but like someone who survives. We sat at the table, cold tea in our mugs, remembering what we'd sold, what we'd skipped, how many times we almost quit. Under the dim light, I saw the fear was still there, but smaller than our resolve. Now the countdown is different. We're not short on money, we're short on time. 6 days, then 5. Every morning I tell Lily that soon all this will be a good story to tell. She smiles, she believes. It's my daily reminder I can't slip. I know the dawn of surgery day will come wrapped in heavy silence, but I'm ready. I worked, turned every no into fuel, and changed exhaustion into certainty. When the OR doors close behind her, I'll squeeze James's hand and remember every night I promised we'd get this far. And if I've come this far, it's not to stop before the end. I always said that, against everything and everyone, the three of us were one body, me, James, and our little Lily. I believed that until yesterday morning, when the clinic's phone call tore that certainty right out of my chest. The receptionist didn't beat around the bush. "Mrs. Harper, the payment for the surgery didn't go through. Without it, we have to give Lily's slot to another child today." My first impulse was to deny it. I knew the money was there. We'd counted every cent over and over. James had promised to transfer it the night before. I took a deep breath, thanked her, and dialed him before panic could paralyze me. It rang 3 times. On the 4th, he answered with that distant voice I learned to read far too late. "James, the clinic didn't get anything. Where's the deposit?" On the other end, background noise, muffled voices, an engine. "Emma!" Something came up. My stomach clenched. Something came up. "Our daughter's surgery is today. What happened to the money?" Silence. I could hear my own heart, hard and uneven, filling the space between us. Then came the sentence that knocked down what little was holding me up. My mom needed a vacation. A last-minute deal to Turkey popped up. "She's never traveled, Emma. I thought it was fair." For a second, everything went white, then red, throbbing at my temples. Fair. He'd called it fair to trade Lily's chance to breathe without pain for a sightseeing trip. That's when I realized the perfect family only existed in my head. I hung up without planning my next move. I just remember pulling in air and feeling that if I gave in to despair, I'd never get up again. Lily was waiting in her room, trusting that when she woke from anesthesia, I'd be right there. And I would be, with or without James, with or without his idea of fair. I still don't know how I'm going to raise the money before the deadline hits, but this is the kind of moment that shows what we're made of. I have a few hours, a daughter who believes in me, and a heart still beating, strong enough not to quit. Because if I fail today, it won't just be the surgery we lose. It'll be everything that makes me a mother. And this fight, I refuse to surrender. I never thought I'd have to choose between the person I love and my own daughter's life. It all started with a bang that still echoes in my ears. That afternoon, I found the bank statement on the table. The money for Lily's surgery. Every cent we'd saved was just gone. My heart raced. A bank error? A scam? I reached for the phone but stopped when the door opened. James came in slowly, shoulders slumped, like a man already expecting judgment. Before he even spoke, my eyes locked on his, and the question burst out like a smothered scream. "Did you take the surgery money?" He tried to hush me with a "Don't shout, Emma," but it was too late. His words followed, each sharper than the last. His mom wanted to fulfill an old dream, that last chance trip. So yes, he'd taken it all. In that moment, the air vanished. Lily needed the operation. The doctor had said the tumor was slow but not kind. I felt time slipping like sand through my fingers, and he was talking about paying it back, about loans, about patching things up. I took a deep breath so I wouldn't crumble. I let him finish because I had to hear it. I needed to be sure it wasn't a nightmare. When the silence finally settled, all I could see was our little girl lying in her room, trying to smile through the pain. "Do you realize what you've done?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "You traded your daughter's life for a vacation." James lowered his head. He said his mom was elderly, that she wouldn't get another chance. In moments like these, the mind races faster than the voice. Is there any excuse for betraying your own daughter? For betraying me? I was shaking, but not from fear. From outrage. So I made it clear. This wasn't about putting things off. Every day without that surgery raised the risk, ate away our hope. He promised to fix it, to get a loan, to make the money multiply like it was easy. All I could think about was the clock. That night, sitting on a chair in the bedroom, he rehearsed an apology. I listened, but I was miles away. I replayed every moment I'd trusted him, every plan we'd made, and I realized something hard to admit. Some cracks can't be patched at the last minute. I know we'll still have to face doctors, banks, maybe courts. I know that tomorrow I'll wake up and reality will still be there, relentless. But I also know I won't back down. Lily deserves a whole life, more than anyone's last chance vacation. Maybe this is the point where a lot of stories end. Mine, though, is just beginning, because when it comes to our kids, there's no halfway, and I'll go all the way, whatever it takes. I knew that silence carried a truth James had been hiding for months. When his voice finally cut through the air, he confessed he'd thrown away our last chance to save Lily so he could answer the eternal call of Margaret, the mother who has always steered his every step. For a moment, the world went gray. This wasn't just a trip. It proved he'd put any whim above his own daughter's life. A heavy emptiness settled in me, then hardened into steel. If no one was going to fight for Lily, I would. The next morning, I woke up with a single goal pounding in my head: get the money, no matter where from. I grabbed the phone and scrolled my contacts like someone crossing a minefield. A few friends handed over small bills, others offered only awkward silence. I went to the bank, faced the manager, and heard "denied" hit like a verdict. Out of options, I turned to the microloan places everyone avoids. The rates looked predatory, but Lily's countdown wouldn't stop. I signed contracts I could barely read with trembling hands, adding up the money practically bill by bill. By nightfall, the total was there. I carried every note to the clinic, and when the receptionist stamped the receipt, a surge of relief shot through me. The surgery was set for 2 weeks out, enough time for fear to try creeping back in, but I don't plan to let it. Back home, I finally collapsed onto the bed. There was no luxury, only the rough taste of victory. I wouldn't leave Lily behind. Now I'm here in the pale green hospital hallway, listening to the ticking clock thump like a drum in my chest. While I wait, I replay every call, every no, every rushed signature. But I also hear the voice that rose inside me that night, the voice that said I could, and that voice will keep me standing until the doctor opens that door and says the word that turns all this effort into life. I barely slept that night. Lily's surgery was set for dawn, and all I could do was sit by her, trying to turn every second into a sheltering hug. I read softly, made up silent games, pulled out childhood memories to distract her from the pain, as if stories could hold her until the first slice of the scalpel. James showed up but kept his distance. He carried flowers and a heavy silence, like someone who knows he's too late to fix what he broke. I saw the guilt in his eyes. I also saw the gap between us. I couldn't cross it. The next morning, I watched Lily being wheeled into surgery. I stayed in the hallway counting heartbeats, whispering promises meant only for me. Hours later, the doctor came out. Everything went fine. Air rushed into my lungs, sweeping away weeks of tension. Lily was moved to the ICU. I could see her only a few minutes a day, but those brief moments kept me going. James kept showing up with fresh fruit and flowers, always silent, always on the sidelines. On the third day, when Lily was already breathing on her own and about to go to a regular room, the door flew open. Margaret walked in, tanned and glowing, dragging a suitcase of exotic trinkets. "I'm back! Miss me? I brought souvenirs from Turkey." She spread magnets, keychains, and sweets on the bedside table while raving about beaches and markets. Anger slammed into me. I watched Lily try to follow her grandma's excitement, first puzzled, then hurt, finally silent in a way that burned like fever. James lowered his head and waited for the scene to fix itself. Oblivious, Margaret placed a plush camel in Lily's frail hands. "So you'll never forget Grandma." And in that tiny gesture, everything exploded, not in my voice, but inside me. Right then, I realized Lily's recovery depended on more than stitches and scars. It depended on which story I chose to tell from that moment on, to her and to me. When I stepped into the room, the silence felt heavier than any machine there. Lily lay with needles in her arms, but the way she looked at me cut deepest. "Grandma, did you go on vacation with the money for my surgery?" The question came out in a whisper, and the air froze. I followed her eyes to my mother-in-law. The tan on Margaret's face turned gray instantly. James studied the floor like it might offer an escape. Anger surged, then settled into something stronger. Certainty. I walked to the bed, smoothed Lily's hair, and turned to Margaret. "You don't belong here anymore." My voice was low and steady. She stammered about family and bonds, and James tried to butt in, but there was no room for excuses. "James, take your mother, and don't come back." He obeyed like someone waking from a bad dream. Before leaving, Margaret searched her granddaughter's eyes, but Lily turned to the wall. When the door closed, I held my daughter's hand, small, warm, full of life despite everything. "It's going to be okay," I promised, pressing my lips to her forehead. The strength I felt wasn't mine alone. It was ours. The day the doctors allowed it, I took Lily home. The future still looked like a long hallway, but now I'm free to fight for every step. And that's why I'm telling this story, to remember that sometimes the biggest turning point happens when the door closes on someone who never knew how to stay. I didn't ask for explanations or slam the door. I just left a note on the dresser. "I'm filing for divorce." As the pen was still scratching the paper, I could already feel the air getting lighter, even though the storm was only just beginning. Lily, my little one, came home from the hospital fragile, cranky, needing care every second. I became everything to her: nurse, storyteller, doll play partner, guide on short walks to the park. Every giggle reminded me I couldn't fall apart. James showed up with the same old speech: regrets, declarations of love, promises to fix the unfixable. I listened in silence, but inside me the trust was already dust. Nothing he said could glue the pieces back together. Weeks later, I finalized the divorce. Quick, no arguments. He knew the fight was lost before it even began. When I signed the last paper, something inside me opened. I no longer depended on him or on the lies I'd hidden behind for so long. I rented a tiny apartment on the edge of town and took 2 jobs. Long hours, little sleep, no complaints. I kept telling myself it was temporary. Lily would get better. We'd start over. Every night, after turning off her bedroom light, I replayed the day, rewrote tomorrow's script, and kept going. And then one night, while Lily... What do you do when the past rings the doorbell? Literally? It was past midnight. Exhaustion had already won when the sound sliced through the silence. I opened the door, and there was James. Slumped shoulders, empty eyes. "I know you'll never forgive me," he murmured. But I had to see Lily. Without a word, I stepped aside. He walked down the hallway like he was entering a sacred place. He stopped beside our daughter's bed, stood there, motionless, watching her breathe. The room was dark, yet a tear still shone on his face. "I'm a terrible dad," he whispered, barely audible. "But I love her. I'll always love her." I watched. One part of me felt the weight in his words. Another part remembered every absence. The silence felt heavier than the night. After a few minutes, or maybe seconds, I don't know, he turned, walked past me, and left. I didn't try to stop him. I just closed the door and stared at the wood, waiting to hear his footsteps come back. Nothing. Life went on, and Lily, incredibly, blossomed. She grew stronger, more curious. By day I worked. By night I planned the future. There were bills, vaccinations, dreams too small and too big to fit on paper. Months later, we were walking in the park. Lily let go of my hand, ran to the lake, and suddenly stopped. She looked back at me. "Mommy, are we going to see Daddy again?" I felt the air grow dense. I knelt, looking into her eyes. "I don't know, honey. Maybe one day. But for now, it's just us." She hugged me with surprising strength for someone so small. "I love you, Mommy." "I love you too." I kissed her forehead. In that moment, the world felt simple. 2 people, 1 hug, 1 now. I know new challenges will come. An absent father, unexpected bills, questions I don't yet know how to answer. But I also know this: as long as we're together, we'll take it 1 step at a time. And when the next doorbell rings, I won't be waiting for ghosts anymore. I'll be ready for whatever comes.